Welcome back, Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic / non-classic. This is episode number 325 and Doubleshot number 255. Two Batgirl trades for the 325th episode of the series. Okay, first up is Cassandra Cain as Batgirl Volume 2, To the Death. It collects issues 13 to 25, and it's done by the creators of the character, Kelly Pudick and Damian Scott. Damian Scott does a majority of the artwork in here. Now, Kelly Pudick does not do every single issue. There's actually one issue in here written by Chuck Dixon, which I believe is the second issue he's ever written for the series. So let me find out which one it is. It's actually one of the issues. It might have been issue 24, 25. Because they brought in a guest writer, because he's in here as a guest writer. Let's see here. Where are you? No, it's not that one. Yeah, there is one issue he does write. I think it's the issue that features, in case you're wondering where they get the cover from, actually it's from issue 23. That's where the cover of the trade comes from. See? Yeah. They take it from issue 23. But there is one issue in here written by Chuck Dixon. Probably because one of his characters guest stars in the book. Let's see if I can try to find it here. Let's see here. Which one is it? Let's see here. I'm trying to find it here. It's kind of difficult here. Let's see. I don't think it's this one. No. Now, he didn't create Tim Drake. Tim Drake shows up in here. Yeah. Here's some artwork by Damian Scott. He does pretty much almost all the issues in here. Yeah, he draws like a good chunk. I would say the first few years of the series are actually done by him. Let's see if I can find it here. I don't think it's this one. Because I know there's at least one issue in here written by Chuck Dixon. Just gotta find it first. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. Issue 20. Now, there is a reason why that issue 20 is written by Chuck Dixon. Because Stephanie Brown, a.k.a. Spoiler, now, this is her pre-Flashpoint costume as Spoiler, not the current outfit she wears in Detective Comics. Yeah, he's just in here as a guest writer, simply because it stars a character Chuck Dixon created, and now, pretty much, now, the thing with Stephanie Brown is, she was originally created to be a one-off character, but apparently people loved her so much, that's the reason why she became a supporting character in the pages of Robin, and of course occasionally show up in Batgirl. Oh yeah, 1325. Now, pretty much, it just seems like that that this book kind of passes in real time. It kind of does, because when the series started, it was referenced that she was 17 when the series started. I think because apparently 1 year has passed by the time for her rematch issue 25, which actually happened 2 years after the start of the series. So my guess is by the time the end of this trade, you're probably thinking, okay, she's now 18. Even though she never celebrates her birthday at all in this entire trade. I don't think she even celebrates her birthday in the entire series. Now, how old is she by the time the series is over? My guess is she's probably 20. Despite the fact she is really thin, and for thinking, oh, she's a little girl. She looks like she's kind of 15 or 16, but that's because Damian Scott draws her that way. And also, the costume is very, very skin tight. Here's how she's in the back of the trade. Yeah, the way that Damian Scott draws the costume, he draws it where it looks like her costume is like very kind of loose in a way, but almost skin tight. That's pretty much the way people say, oh yeah, they wear tights. Skin tight. A lot of the superheroes in comic books wear skin tight outfits. Yeah, and Damian Scott is not exaggerating about this. Yeah, that's simply the way it is when it comes to this series. Now, Lady Shiva would pop up in the series now and again, but this is only the second trade. Now, my guess is there's probably going to be about 4 more trades released to collect this run. It's only 73 issues. And besides, if I get it back, it says 1325. in the book, it says it collects, well, along with issues 13 to 25, but also Batgirl Secret Files Origins #1. Which, when I read this, I'm like, okay, is that in here? The answer, excuse me, nope, it is not in here. They took the profile stuff from Secret Files and Origins #1. Yeah, they took the profile pages from it and put it in here. My guess is they're probably saving for the next volume. Yes. So pretty much all they took for the Secret Files and Origins is the profile pages. Like the profile for Cassandra Cain, the profile for her mother, Lady Shiva. But pretty much for Oracle, yeah, Barbara Gordon gets 2 pages because she's also Batgirl. Apparently, they said it split up. Her father, Cassandra Cain's father, David Cain, he gets a page, and I believe he's a creative director as well. And of course, we have Barbara Gordon's version of Batgirl. Now, this artwork right here, that's actually taken from the series Batgirl Year 1. What is Batgirl Year 1? Technically, it is pretty much, it's the rebooted origin story. It's one of 2, actually, of Barbara Gordon's first year as Batgirl. It was a 9-issue limited series written by Chuck Dixon, and it was collected in a trade where it combined that series with another series Chuck Dixon had written also, Robin Year 1, which focused on Dick Grayson's first year as Robin. When you read it in the trade, it kind of does feel like this is the same creative team. I don't remember who the artist is who drew this picture. Let's see. I don't think it's no, it's not listed on here who drew this. Simply put, the series is simply like what Batgirl did during her first year. Pretty much, Year 1, Batgirl Year 1 is a continuation of Robin Year 1, story-wise, because it kind of feels like it takes place right after that. Despite the fact by the time Batgirl showed up, according to what I read, Batman had been around for 3 years, and Robin had been around for 2 years. Robin was in his second year of crime fighting, while Batman was in his third year. That's how it's clearly established. That Batman's around for 3 years, Robin's around for 2 years, and Batgirl had just started. That's simply how it goes. But all the issues in here are really good. I do highly recommend getting this one and the first trade. Now, as for when the third trade is going to come out, I don't know. My guess is the third trade will probably either do one of 2 things. It will definitely start with issue 26, but where it would end, there's a couple places there's a few places it could end with issue 36, 37, or even issue 40. It just depends on what DC Comics wants to do with this series when it comes to the Volume 2 trade. Though, of course, in case you're wondering why does it have this logo on here, that's because the trade was released before the change of logo. But this trade is awesome. 9.5 out of 10. Awesome stuff. My friend Edgar is planning on doing a review of the Batgirl Volume 1 series in the future. Now, this one is a bit controversial. Batgirl Volume 3 Mindfields by Cameron Stewart, Brandon Fletcher, and Babs Tarr. Babs Tarr is the artist. Now, when I look at this picture, this cover, I'm thinking, man, they so love the Yvonne Craig version of Batgirl from the 60s show. Because purple suit, her jumping like that, it kind of reminds me of Batgirl from the 60s TV show. And, of course, I should also point out that in this particular book, Spoiler shows up. Yeah, they put her in the book because Giovanni Valentine wrapped up her run for Catwoman. So they got to figure out to put her someplace. Put her in Batgirl and have Harper Row show up too. Also, Luke Fox and Barbara Gordon break up. Yep, they break up. And of course, she starts her own energy company. And of course, the ending kind of helps sets up Batgirl, the current volume of the series with her leaving the country, starting her backpacking trip. Yeah, it kind of continues from there with the Beyond Batgirl storyline, which is going Beyond Batgirl, Beyond Burnside, which I think is wrapping up really soon. Yes. I don't have a problem with the issues in here. It's just the run is very controversial, simply because it came right after Gail Simone. Um, the issues in here are issues 46 to 52, and of course the Batgirl Endgame one shot, which is not a bad idea to put in here, simply because I think it was done by the same creative team, if I'm not mistaken. And they put the Endgame one shot right after 52, even though it came out. Actually, the one shot actually came out between issues 40 and 41. So one kind of wonder, why isn't this in the previous trade? No answer there. I guess they just didn't want to interrupt the flow of the series. Now, overall, this is the 8th trade to collect the Batgirl issues from Volume 4. Yes, the 8th trade. Now, one of the problems I had heard about this particular run is the tech-heavy stuff, very heavily in the social media. The fact that Batgirl is completely a different character, and the title is kind of like a girly title, but I don't have a really big problem with it as everybody else did. But it's still a good read. And the issue with the first issue that had because Black Canary stars about half the issues in here. The first one, simply put, according to Bat Josh, from his review of it, he pointed out that issue was pretty much the best issue of the whole run. Simply put, because the writers know how to give good chemistry to Barbara Gordon and Lenz as Batgirl and Black Canary, respectively. And plus, also, the Black Canary title was going at this point. So, I guess they figured, though, because they knew this run was ending, so they figured, though, bring back Black Canary and form this all-girl team, which I could easily call them a Birds of Prey type team without the name, because even though it's comprised of 2 of the founding members of the Birds of Prey, along with Bluebird and Spoiler, and they even throw in Vixen, who have appearing as a supporting character in the pages of Black Canary. Here's some artwork. Yeah, it's very bizarre. Also, I kind of forgot about this because it's been a little bit of a while since I read this. Killer Moth shows up in here. Now, even though he does show up currently in All-Star Batman, now I thought that the last time he showed up in comics was during Jeff Lemire's run for Green Arrow. He did show up in there, but I kind of forgot he showed up in here just before he showed up in All-Star Batman. Maybe because his appearance in here was so forgettable, that could explain why that I completely forgot about him appearing in this book. Well, appearing for like one issue for like, I don't know, a few pages. I don't get why Cameron Stewart and Brandon Fletcher threw him in here. He had no reason to be in here. I mean, yes, the character is heavily associated with Batgirl's origin story, but essentially he had no reason being here at all. Probably because they threw him in here because, well, one thing, their run is ending, so they got to throw in Killer Moth, a character who's heavily associated with Batgirl, with Barbara Gordon's origin story as Batgirl, and the fact that he is commonly referred to as the first villain that she ever fought as Batgirl. Despite the fact Killer Moth at the time looked completely different than he does today. If you want to know what Killer Moth looks like, if you're really that dang curious. Also, Jim Gordon shows up in here, which, once again, like with Killer Moth, I kind of forgot he showed up in here. And this is what Killer Moth looks like in here. I am not kidding about that. This is how they draw him in here, with a big gun. Okay, the mask is fine, but it just kind of feels like so generic, and it feels like, I mean, when you read this, it kind of feels like that Killer Moth and Jim Gordon Batman have really no reason to be here, aside from the fact that this run was ending. So that's the reason why. It still had a good ending to it, and despite the fact that the current volume is a kind of continuation of this, despite that with a different writer, I'm still going to give it a... I want to be nice to it. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Simply because I did kind of like it. But the only reason why I take the extra point off is because it's not very popular with a lot of people. That's why people don't really like the Batgirl title very much since Gail Simone left. And of course the current one is just a continuation of this. Instead of, you know, referencing Gail Simone. Okay. Before I go and get some final thoughts on it, when this run started, it ticked a lot of people off. Simply because the writers were trying so hard to get people to forget Gail Simone's awesome run on the book. Even though that her run took out the first 34 issues of this, Gail Simone wrote all but 3 issues of that run. She didn't write 17, 18, and of course she didn't write issue 25 because that was written by Margie Bennett. As a matter of fact, there were actually 4 issues. I forgot 4 issues. Issue 30 was not written by Gail Simone. It was written by somebody else. It was a horror issue, simply put. But, and of course also I should point out that Alyssa did show up in this trade as well. Unlike in Gail Simone's run where she showed up very frequently, in this run she showed up very rarely. And also, the first 3 issues, people hated these issues so much. Even though, yes, people knew Gail Simone left the book, fine. People had a problem with the fact the book didn't feel the same without Gail Simone there. I mean, books without her have survived perfectly fine. It's just that her run was so well received that people couldn't basically take in that run. One of the dumb things they did do with this run was the fact they decided to relaunch the volume numbering of the trades. Because even though it's a different writer, yes, with Detective Comics, which had several writers, the volume numbering was never relaunched number 1 at all. But yet, this was, yes. And it was collected in 3 trades instead of 5. Couldn't they just kept that numbering going? Were they so offended by the dark stuff that Gail Simone did? And plus, they even gave an explanation early on what happened to that costume. It got burned. It was destroyed in a building fire. That's simply what happened to it. This costume feels like a jacket with pants. That's simply what it is. I mean, when you look at the costume very closely, there's a zipper running up the top like a jacket. It has side pockets like a jacket, which have zippers on it, by the way. I honestly don't get what the artist... Now, I personally didn't have a problem with this costume when it first showed up. It looks really nice. Kind of... I mean, some people might think, oh, the cape is kind of like a snap-on. It kind of looks like very militaristic. But I kind of felt as though that the writers were fans of the Yvonne Craig version of the character. Even though that they probably love that costume. That's probably the reason why it's purple. I mean, more purple than the previous costume, which... the overall, in this continuity, they established that Barbara Gordon, as Batgirl, has gone through 4 different costumes. You have the costume she had during her... There's issue 0. There's the costume that show up in here in flashback, which kind of looks like Misfits costume. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, they show it in flashback in issue 50. Let's see if I can find it here. Let me think. Let me see here. Where are you? Here we go. Yes. This is kind of right here. This is her second costume. It kind of reminds me of Misfits costume. That's what kind of reminds me of. So, this right here, second costume. The costume she wore in Gail Simone's run, that's her third costume. This is her fourth costume. Batman has only gone through at least 2 different costumes. There was the Jim Lee costume and the Greg Capullo costume. And of course, he had a costume, which is similar to the Frank Miller costume. Now, I don't know if they're going to use that costume from the movies. Who the heck knows? But the Batgirl Volume 3 trade is still a good read, if a bit controversial, on how they depict Batgirl. The artwork is completely different. It doesn't have that same... Maybe because people missed the magic Gail Simone put on the book. That's probably the reason why. Okay, so that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, which is episode 326, and Doubleshot number 256. Okay, till then, I will see you there.